Where are you watching from? Let me know your city down in the comments. I read every single one. And before we begin, hit that subscribe button, because what you're about to hear will change the way you see women and yourself forever. See, women don't just listen to what you say. They observe what you do. They test not to manipulate, but to measure. Because every woman, consciously or not, wants to know one thing. Is this man emotionally strong enough to lead me, protect me, and not crumble when the world pushes back? These aren't tests you can prepare for. They're spontaneous, subtle, and deeply psychological. But once you recognize them, you'll never be blindsided again. Let's begin with the first one. Test 1. The emotional chaos test. It usually begins so quietly you barely notice it. One day she's warm, affectionate, laughing at your jokes, and the next, she's distant, cold, or irritated over something small. You replay every word in your head, wondering, what did I do wrong? But here's the truth. It's not about what you did. It's about who you are when things stop feeling easy. Every woman, whether she realizes it or not, will at some point test a man through emotional turbulence. Not because she wants to start drama, but because female psychology is wired to seek emotional safety. She's not just looking for chemistry. She's looking for stability, the kind of energy that stays calm when the storm hits. And make no mistake, this test is not conscious. She doesn't sit down and think, let me test this man today. It happens instinctively. She might pull away slightly, make a sarcastic comment, or give you an attitude out of nowhere, just to feel how you respond. The moment you react with panic, anger, or neediness, the test ends, and you fail it. Because from her perspective, if a small shift in tone can shake your energy, how will you handle the bigger storms? Arguments, financial stress, temptation, life pressure? She's asking, can I trust this man's emotional leadership when things get hard? Women don't test for fun. They test for truth. They want to see the difference between a man who acts strong and a man who is strong. And that's why this test is subtle but powerful. Because it's not about words, it's about your emotional presence. Imagine this. She suddenly gives you attitude after texting all day. She replies dryly, "K," or whatever. Most men instantly chase. Did I do something wrong? Why are you being like this? They start explaining, defending, or over-communicating, trying to fix her mood instead of standing firm in their own. But the high-value man doesn't chase confusion. He doesn't take her emotional waves personally. He observes, stays centered, and gives space if needed. Because he understands that her emotional shifts are not his responsibility. They're reflections of her inner world. And when she sees that his calm doesn't waver, something inside her relaxes. She might not say it, but she feels it. I can breathe around this man. That's the paradox most men miss. When you stop trying to fix her feelings, she begins to trust yours. When you stop reacting to her chaos, she stops creating it. Psychologists call this emotional mirroring. When a woman throws emotional energy at you, she subconsciously hopes you'll show her how to regulate it. Not by matching it, but by grounding it. Your emotional tone becomes the emotional tone of the relationship. If you lead with calm confidence, she feels secure. If you lead with confusion or anxiety, she feels unsafe, and that's when attraction starts to fade. This is why so many men lose women even when they do everything right. They bought flowers, they called, they cared. But when she threw emotional chaos their way, they cracked. She lost faith. Not because he was bad, but because he wasn't steady. A woman's respect is built in silence, during the moments you don't react, when she's distant and you don't chase, when she's moody and you stay kind but composed, when she's testing and you pass without even acknowledging the test. That's when she feels it deep in her psychology. This man isn't controlled by emotion, he's grounded in his power. And that feeling is magnetic. It's what makes her drop her defenses, open up emotionally, and surrender her trust. So the next time a woman gives you emotional chaos, don't panic. See it for what it truly is, a mirror. A reflection of how deeply she wants to feel your strength. Stay calm, breathe. Don't try to fix her, don't fight her. Lead with peace, because if she feels calmer because of you, not in your absence, not in your silence, but in your presence, then you've passed one of the hardest tests female psychology will ever throw your way. And once she knows your emotions can't be shaken, she'll stop testing you and start trusting you. Test 2. The boundaries test. At some point, no matter how well things are going, she's going to test your boundaries. Not out of malice, not because she wants to hurt you, but because deep down, she wants to know whether the man she's with can protect his peace. This test is not loud. It's not dramatic at first. It's quiet, almost invisible. A late reply here, a subtle tease in front of her friends, a sarcastic jab that crosses the line just enough to see how you'll respond. She's watching your energy more than your words, because a woman's attraction is tied not just to your charm or looks, it's tied to her sense of safety in your authority. And no woman can fully respect a man who doesn't respect himself. When she pushes your boundaries, she's really asking, will this man stand up for himself? Or will he sell his self-respect to keep my attention? Let that sink in. See, most men fail this test because they mistake kindness for weakness. They think being patient means being passive. They think keeping the peace means avoiding conflict at all costs. But here's the paradox. The more you avoid conflict, the more chaos you invite. Women instinctively feel when a man is afraid to lose them. When you tolerate things that don't sit right with you, when you keep quiet to avoid upsetting her, you're teaching her one dangerous lesson. My comfort is more important than his standards. And once that happens, respect begins to erode, quietly, invisibly, one boundary at a time. But the high-value man? He doesn't need to shout to enforce his boundaries. His tone is calm, his words are measured, but his stance is firm. He doesn't fight for control. He simply refuses to surrender his peace. Psychologically, this creates what researchers call dominant calm. It's the kind of confidence that isn't loud or aggressive. It's anchored. It signals to her subconscious that you are emotionally self-sufficient, that you can walk away if respect disappears. And that's exactly what women find magnetic. Not arrogance, not ego, but the quiet confidence of a man who knows his worth. Here's the truth. When a woman crosses a line and you stay silent, she doesn't think, wow, he's so understanding. She thinks, he doesn't respect himself enough to speak up. It's not about punishing her. It's about protecting your energy. Because a man without boundaries becomes a man without peace. And a man without peace becomes a man she cannot admire. Let's make this practical. Say she cancels plans at the last minute. Again. The average man says, no worries, it's fine. But deep down, he's annoyed. He's just afraid to say it. The high-value man? He responds differently. He doesn't get angry. He doesn't guilt-trip her. He simply says, hey, I value my time. If we're going to plan something, let's make sure it's solid next time. He's calm, direct. He doesn't beg, he doesn't chase. He communicates his standard, and if she repeats the same behavior, he walks away with his dignity intact. That moment, that silent, grounded decision, says more about your worth than 1,000 compliments ever could. Because women respect what you're willing to lose more than what you're trying to keep. When she realizes you won't compromise your peace to earn her approval, something shifts. His subconscious says, this man doesn't need validation. He lives by principle. And that's the kind of energy women submit to. Not through fear, but through admiration. Boundaries don't push women away. Weakness does. Boundaries filter women. They separate the ones who respect you from the ones who would drain you. So the next time she pushes that invisible line, don't explode, don't beg, don't freeze. Just smile, breathe, and let your silence speak for you. Because silence with standards is louder than a man with no backbone. The moment you prove you're not afraid to walk away, she stops testing and starts trusting. She realizes this man doesn't need to control her, because he already controls himself. And once a woman feels that, she won't just respect you, she'll follow your lead, not because she has to, but because deep down, she wants to. Test 3. The temptation test. There comes a moment in every relationship when she subtly tests what kind of man you truly are, not by what you say, but by what you entertain. This is the temptation test. It doesn't always look like another woman. Sometimes it's opportunity, attention, flattery, or an invitation to step outside the lines of discipline and loyalty. And here's the truth. She might never say it, but she's watching how you move when she's not watching. Female psychology reveals something most men overlook. Women don't just want a loyal man. They want a man who's loyal to himself. Because if you can betray your own values for a moment's pleasure, how can she trust you with her heart? And so, whether consciously or instinctively, she will put you in moments where temptation reveals your truth. It might be subtle, a pretty friend who flirts with you, a coworker who's too close, or even a moment online where you could cross a line, and she pays attention, not to what happens in the open, but to what happens in silence. Because women sense integrity on a spiritual level. They feel it in your tone, your eyes, your decisions. When she looks at you, she's not just asking, "Is he faithful to me?" She's asking, "Is he faithful to his principles?" Most men think loyalty is about what they don't do. But real loyalty is about who you are when no one's looking. And this is where many men unknowingly fail. They think small lapses don't matter. Liking provocative photos online, flirting just for fun, or keeping secret messages because it doesn't mean anything. But to a woman with emotional intelligence, every small act speaks volumes about your character. Women don't just test for physical loyalty. They test for energetic loyalty. She feels when your attention is divided, when your focus drifts away from her, not because you're busy, but because you're searching for validation elsewhere. And when she feels that, she starts to emotionally detach, not in anger, but in disappointment, because now she sees that your discipline is conditional, not absolute. The temptation test is not meant to expose your weakness, it's meant to reveal your center. It asks, can this man master his impulses, or do his impulses master him? A woman's deepest security doesn't come from your words, it comes from your consistency. When you're surrounded by options but remain grounded in your values, you project something few men ever achieve: integrity under pressure. That's what truly separates the boyfriend from the man, because temptation isn't just about women. It's about ego, the need to feel wanted, powerful, admired, and every man faces that test. When you resist it, not out of fear but out of self-respect, it radiates something powerful. She feels your strength, not because you're cold or detached, but because you've mastered the art of emotional control. And nothing attracts a woman more deeply than a man who chooses discipline over desire. Psychologists call this the security paradox. Women are drawn to men who have options, yet stay loyal. It's not the absence of opportunity that makes her trust you, it's your ability to walk past temptation without hesitation. And here's the secret: she doesn't just test you once. Sometimes, she'll bring up her attractive friend in conversation or mention an ex who still messages her, not to hurt you, but to observe your reaction. Because how you handle her temptation reveals how you handle yours. If you get jealous, reactive, or controlling, she sees insecurity. If you get playful but confident, grounded, and self-assured, she sees strength. You're telling her, without words, "I don't need to control you because I control myself." That's the energy that makes a woman feel safe. The temptation test isn't about what you avoid, it's about what you choose. Every time you turn away from cheap validation, you rise in her eyes. You become rare, unshakable. A man who's not seduced by attention, because he already knows his worth. And when a woman realizes that your loyalty isn't a performance, that it's your nature, she softens. Her tests fade, her trust deepens, because she finally knows you're not loyal because you have to be. You're loyal because you choose to be. Test 4, the submission test. Every woman, no matter how independent, strong, or outspoken she is, will eventually run a final test. One that isn't about your looks, your money, or your charm. It's about your energy, your presence, your ability to lead, not with force, but with certainty. This is the submission test. And it's not about dominance over her. It's about dominance over yourself. Because a woman can only relax into her feminine energy when she feels the man beside her is rooted in his masculine frame. Emotionally steady, mentally decisive, spiritually secure. That's what her subconscious is constantly scanning for. It's not about controlling her behavior. It's about whether your energy commands trust. Let's break it down. At first, she may challenge your opinions. She'll argue with your logic, question your plans, or reject your suggestions, even when they make sense. You'll feel it. A small rebellion in her tone, a spark in her eyes, a moment where she wants to see how you'll respond. Most men take it personally. They think, why is she being difficult? Why can't she just agree? But that's the mistake. They see it as disrespect when, in reality, it's a test of leadership presence. Because deep down, she doesn't want to lead. She wants to trust that you can. This test doesn't happen in words. It happens in your energy. When she disagrees with you, she's not asking, are you right? She's asking, are you sure? And if your certainty wavers, she feels it. If you start justifying, over-explaining, or begging for understanding, she loses confidence. Not in your point, but in your presence. Women are emotionally intelligent creatures. They can feel when a man's energy collapses under pressure. And once she senses that collapse, she starts to pull away. Not because she wants to, but because she can't trust where you're leading her. That's what the submission test exposes, your internal authority. Can you stay calm when she's emotional? Can you make a decision without needing her to approve it? Can you disagree with her respectfully, without backing down or attacking her? When you can do that, when you lead with quiet confidence, something inside her shifts. The fight dissolves, her energy softens, her tone changes. Because now, she feels safe in your frame. This is not about ego or control. It's about polarity, the psychological dance between masculine and feminine energy. She wants to know that your masculinity isn't just physical strength or verbal dominance, it's energetic gravity. That's why some men, even with average looks or money, attract deep devotion, while others, with status and charm, constantly get tested. Because women don't submit to looks, they submit to emotional certainty. Psychologists studying attachment behavior note that women are most attracted to men who maintain emotional dominance without aggression. That means steady tone, consistent boundaries, and a calm assertiveness that says, I'm not here to control you, but I won't be controlled either. When you embody that energy, she relaxes. She stops overanalyzing, stops competing, and begins to trust. Because now she can finally rest in her feminine. Not because you forced her to, but because you created an environment where she doesn't have to fight for control. But here's the hard truth. If you fail this test, if you become defensive, passive, or emotionally unstable, she will instinctively take the lead. And once she does, attraction begins to fade. Because no woman wants to be the emotional leader in a relationship. She might take charge temporarily, but deep down, she's exhausted by it. She doesn't want to dominate the man she loves. She wants to trust him. And that's why the submission test is the most profound of all. It's not about what you do in public. It's about what she feels in private. Can she relax her guard when she's with you? Can she let go, knowing you won't crumble when she's upset, emotional, or unsure? That's the mark of a man she will never forget. Not because he forced her to submit, but because he gave her something rarer than love: emotional safety. When she realizes that your power isn't about control but about calm, that your confidence isn't arrogance but peace, she doesn't just follow your lead, she aligns with it. She stops testing. She starts trusting. And in that moment, she doesn't just see you as a man. She sees you as her man.